Hello, dear friends. Welcome to Kardec Radio, where we're here to nourish our souls. I'm Norah, the host of this program, Thoughts by Joanna de Angelis, and this is the book. It is amazing, transformational. We are on the third part of the book. It's all messages about trusting in God, and sometimes it's easier said than done. We've all been through challenges in our lives day to day, but if we keep practicing, we keep changing our mindset, shifting constantly, right? Adapting to the situation. We start to integrate these lessons and our life begins to take a different direction, right? Inside, there are things outside of us that we cannot change, right? And there are circumstances that we know are part of our reincarnatory plan, but the shifting that happens, it's inside of us, right? It's in our hearts, in our souls, in our minds. And that's when things begin to take a different direction, dear friends. So let us begin today's lesson. Joanna and Divaldo say, do not consent under any circumstances to fall into the abyss of rebellion because it generates sadness and long-term pernicious depression. Friends, have we ever felt so frustrated that our hearts start to close off? We've all been there, right? But sometimes it's because it started as a disappointment and then slowly it turned into this rebellion. Rebellion against what? Against the circumstances, against others, maybe even against life itself. But what does this rebellion mean? Rebellion is not this healthy questioning, right? Sometimes we do have to question. Instead, it's to resist, this resistance against divine order. It's when we stop trusting that God's plan, even in difficulty, has a purpose. I'm going to say this again because I need to hear this too. It's when we stop trusting that God's plan, even in difficulty, has purpose. So when our souls rebel against what is, it does create this inner conflict, right? And we know Joanna and Divaldo are here about helping us how to transform this conflict. But what happens if we leave all this residue? Well, unfortunately, peace turns into bitterness, gratitude turns into complaint, and slowly our spirit may sink into darkness, not because God abandoned us, but because we turned away from his light. So this is a huge shift, right? The roles are upon us having the autonomy, having the accountability of what we're going to do. And we need to study. We need to, again, remind ourselves that every trial in our lives has meaning. So when we let that rebellion come in, we're letting that block that lesson. And remember, friends, acceptance, however painful, opens the path to understanding and healing. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 5, this is Blessed are the afflicted. The whole chapter, friends, reminds us that suffering, when endured with patience and trust, becomes a means of purification and growth, right? So those who rebel only prolong the suffering, while those who trust transform it into peace, right? We can see how the Spirit instructs us there through different passages, all these, right, different items. So when we shift our mindset from why me to what can I learn, rebellion loses its power and the Spirit begins to rise again. In the Bible, Romans chapters 8, verses 28, it says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. So even when life feels unfair, God is still orchestrating growth, strength, and renewal within us. So trusting this keeps us from falling into the abyss of despair. Now thinking about how this relates to what Joanna and Divaldo are stating. So friends, when life storms come, rebellion's whispers resist, right? But trust will come and say, no, rest, right? Meaning trust. It doesn't mean to give up. It means surrendering to a higher wisdom, allowing God to guide where our human eyes cannot see. And let us think about this beautiful affirmation that we can use, right? Beginning of the week. It is a Monday night if we're watching this live, right? Or on demand too. It's Monday, beginning of the night, beginning of the week, beginning of the day, doesn't matter. Whenever it is, it's good to set ourselves and say something like release rebellion and choose trust, right? God's wisdom leads me even through the unknown. And we start making these affirmations, we start manifesting, we start believing, friends, it just becomes a part of us day to day, and our lives do take a beautiful direction. Now, again, here we realize that the promise is not that we won't have challenges. Instead, it's inviting us to remember what will we do when those challenges come in. We need to trust. We need to let go of that rebellion, right? It's part of that rebellion to not trust and just let be. Friends, that is today's message. There is a beautiful visualization at the end to think of this balloon that we are carrying. You will see in the video. And so what are we going to do, right? Let's release. Let's let go, friends. And that is the message. Until next week, same place, same time. Let us remember that we are loved, and let us watch other programs here at Kardec Radio. Bye, friends. Have an amazing week. Take care. Ciao, ciao.